Hey guys, number one Marmaduke fan here. I just finished reading Bigfoot Bill 2, Finger of Poseidon by Ducktin Apple. I'll show you the front and back cover here and all the cool embossing on it. So for this review, this is going to be kind of like a qualified recommendation. I enjoyed it. It's definitely worth my money, and that's one of the best things about Ducktin Apple books is he puts like a lot of love and like extra. Like when you get this in the mail and it's got like the gold leaf and everything, it feels like a special book. Like you can tell he cares about making nice things and making his things look really nice and making you feel like you got something really good for what you paid for. So I have like one short thought or way of illustrating why I didn't enjoy this one quite as much as book one or as Earthworm Jim. So there's a scene in the Earthworm Jim graphic novel where, spoilers for Earthworm Jim to make this point. So near the climax, Earthworm Jim gets cut in half and his head's surviving, and they realize his butt is dead, and so they have like this heroic funeral for Earthworm Jim's butt. And they keep saying over the word butt over and over again as they eulogize it. I'm still cracking up thinking about it because the gag works at a couple levels. It works at the level of they're saying the word butt over and over again, and butts are hilarious, and right, like a little kid would get a kick out of that. And then it's also funny because it's a genuinely heroic moment. Like Earthworm Jim is like a childlike character, and he's learned heroic sacrifice, and he's been beaten, and so it's also funny on that second level that they're spoiling this genuinely heroic eulogy by saying the word butt over and over again with a straight face, right? So and there's also kind of like this undercurrent to Earthworm Jim that he's very childlike and in love with life and wants to have a father and play catch with his old man, right? And so that gives like a special deep human charm to it. Bigfoot Bill also has some of that, and Volume 1 also had some of it where he was like a teenager kind of kid looking for his mom and dad, wanting to find his home, wanting to find his family, and that's still running through this, but it's kind of in the background. So one of the things that Ducktin Apple does great, I think, in his style of humor is when he does a random silly gag, he really commits to it. And if you don't like it, that's okay, because he won't try to like retell that same gag 8 times. If it didn't land the first time, it won't land. I highlighted a few examples of like his random humor. But then in that Earthworm Jim gag, he supplements the random gag with like this really deep human, like pure emotion thing. There's some of that in Bigfoot Bill too, and I'm really impressed kind of like by the moral dimension of what he's doing. I just felt like some of the random humor didn't tie into kind of like the human stuff quite as well in Bigfoot Bill 2. So I didn't laugh quite as much at it. So let's get into it, and spoilers for Bigfoot Bill 2. So Bigfoot Bill 1 ends with Bigfoot Bill successfully escaping like the government facility. He's buddies with the Kraken. They defeat one of Poseidon's powerful minions, and it looks like Bigfoot Bill is learning how to use his powers, and they've got to, now that they've beaten Poseidon's minion, they've got to get ready to handle Poseidon. In the background, there's kind of been this subplot that the Bigfoots have been like corrupted by the forest or something. You don't see too much of it. You just hear people talking about it. So this forest creature who I think there's enough narrative clues in Bigfoot Bill 1 that you'd be able to put 2 and 2 together that this strange forest creature is somehow connected to Bigfoot Bill's past. So while Bigfoot Bill is kind of like relaxing at home, and they're kind of doing some exposition on some of the past stuff, there's this subplot where other magical forces on the planet are trying to stop Poseidon from flooding the planet apart from our heroes. Now, I highlighted this page because this is like a really good example, I think, of Ducktin Apple having the human element to it, where Agent Beckner's kind of a, what would the word be? Kind of an incel, really wants to get the girl, but he's nervous around girls. So he's finally telling Agent Sharon how he feels. And even though he's kind of nervous, he's sort of impressed Agent Sharon with just what a like great man he is. Like he's got courage, he's got what counts. He'll go to bat for her and save the day. And I think her line is like, "This makes me feel safe," right? I will keep you safe in this crazy world. And and he makes her feel safe, and so that kind of like makes her excited. He's actually a man, but he's got to get past kind of like his hangups about women enough for him to like get a sentence out. And so he sort of it all comes together for him. He gets a sentence out. He says something really beautiful and poetic and complimentary to her, and that's exactly what like a man needs to be, right? and then it's like underscored with just like him sort of nervously picking up his coffee, not sure what happened, and spilling it on himself, right? So great stuff. The silly like coffee gag underscores this like really human thing. And like I said, spoilers for all like the plot twists. Tragically, we realize that Sharon is what is it? The government erases Sharon's personality because she was her body was secretly the Fairy Queen's body the whole time. And Agent Sharon was just like a deep cover they created to occupy the body. They basically erase all of her personality and memories so that she can become the Fairy Queen again, right? So poor Agent Beckner, he fell in love. He finally told the girl he loved her, and it turns out she didn't really exist, right? I highlighted this because this is just an example of Ducktin Apple doing something just kind of like random and committing to it. So he has this running gag where in the top panel, there are like these pants running around and the government's chasing after the pants, and then like the pants are hiding, disguising themselves in a pair of pants, close hanger, and then the pants get away. What? Okay, and that's just like he commits to it, right? And if you didn't crack up by that, that's okay, because then there's like the whole regular adventure going on with like a heroic chase scene, and the government's after them, and the whole team's trying to get away. And that was really fun. Hopping ahead. So here's another example of like Ducktin Apple's weird. He's really, really weird. Where like Poseidon's trying to get to the ocean, so a seagull talks to him, and then the seagull starts rapping. Well, he's walking and he's talking, but the state is on him because he's smarter than them, like Stephen Hawking. Now he walk between houses, he go between homes, as the Lord of the Sea returns to his throne. What? And then it's never mentioned again. Like, seagulls rap. Okay. And then they go to Hades and there's like giant rock monster with like Disney Mickey Mouse ears. Like with Doug, I never know it. Did he do that because he thinks it's funny, or does he think it's a commentary on like Disney corporate swallowing the world and taking us to hell by buying everything, and Disney ruining all the old properties? What does it mean? I don't understand what any of this means. And then there'll be like a really nice poetic quote on the back of this. Hateful to me as the gate to Hades is the man who hides one thing in his heart and speaks another. It's just so weird. Okay, so I jumped to this because one of the things I think Ducktin Apple is doing is I think he is recognizing the deconstructed postmodern story, and then he's reconstructing something that kind of exists in light of the deconstructed story. So like if you made another Star Wars, the problem is it wouldn't be interesting because we've already seen Star Wars. So if you just try to copy the Star Wars format, like Star Wars is like good guy, bad guy kicks down the door, it's Darth Vader, and now they got to get the plans away from Darth Vader so they can blow up the Death Star and save the galaxy from the Empire, right? Like really simple black and white morality. And with the deconstructed postmodern story, people are kind of hungry for simple good and evil stories. Again, like that's something that speaks very deeply to the human soul. But like the intellectual story is the deconstructed story. Everything is gray. There is no good and evil. America is the bad guy. That kind of stuff. So one of the interesting things Ducktin Apple is doing is he's saying, well, there is a moral gray element. Like there's this creepy government that's trying to lock up Poseidon, and they also lock up a lot of, like completely innocent cryptozoological animals that haven't hurt anybody, right? So there's this nasty element to the, deep state swamp government, but then Poseidon wants to kill everybody, right? So there is this kind of like, you feel bad for Poseidon because they've been locking him up for no good reason, but that doesn't justify him in killing everybody on the planet. So Poseidon gets the Kraken back, and he's starting to build up all his power again. And he tells the Kraken, there is no good. You should know that better than anyone. So Poseidon is so jaded by how bad the government is that he's become willing to kill everybody on the planet, basically, right? So what's interesting to me about this is Ducktin Apple is saying there is such a thing as evil. This perspective that there is no good and evil is itself evil. It justifies you in doing all sorts of terrible things. But one of the things that's led to this is the government being evil. The government being evil and locking up all these animals without a trial, that really has ticked off Poseidon, and he's going to get revenge on the government for doing this to him, right? So it's sort of like he's not saying he's moving beyond just a simple black and white, rebels good, empire bad morality. He's saying there is a moral gray situation here, but it's still evil for you to want to murder people just because of evil that's been done to you. Like what would it be? Evil begets more evil. Two wrongs don't make a right, right? Like it's a really fascinating way of telling that kind of story. There's like a lot of really cool action scenes where Poseidon gets all his power back, and he seems to be getting more and more and more power. And kind of like a bizarre thing where Bigfoot Bill is basically powerless before him, and just there to offer moral support in the giant monster battle action sequence to beat Poseidon. And then there's kind of like this interesting thing that wraps it up where Agent Beckner worked for the evil government organization, but he's kind of a good guy, right? He's trying to do the right thing, even as he's kind of becoming disillusioned with the government, basically like taking people's rights away and trying to control everything. And Bigfoot Bill's father thanks Beckner for trying to do what's right for Bigfoot Bill. Like, if anybody had to take Bigfoot Bill away from his family, I'm glad it was you. That's a really interesting twist, that even if you're kind of like within a corrupt government system, if you're doing what's right, and Beckner got kicked out of the government because he did what's right and tried to help Bigfoot Bill out. It's sort of like I don't know. You can only do something to fix corrupt institutions if you yourself are working on yourself as an individual, right? Like, you'll probably never be able to fix all the problems in the world, but if you do what's right in your life, maybe you can start to do something positive about those big problems. So it's really bizarre. It's really bizarre, really weird. There's some narrative threads that just kind of come out of left field that you aren't expecting. Some of the gags are just like, what just happened with it? So I did enjoy it. I feel like maybe Ducktin Apple has to, like for him to hit all the cylinders that Earthworm Jim and Bigfoot Bill 1 were hitting for me. I feel like maybe he has to like look at his weird ideas and just make sure that human element consistently keeps cropping up throughout it. So if what I liked about Earthworm Jim was that really like wholesome, down-to-earth, childlike quality Earthworm Jim had throughout it, I feel like we needed to get a little bit more of that human teenage quality Bigfoot Bill had throughout Bigfoot Bill 1 and make that more consistent throughout this book. Like, it was still there. I didn't talk about Bigfoot Bill too much because he didn't have too much of an impact on the story, ironically, at the end of it. Like, he lost his power. He was there trying to do the best he could do at the final confrontation. But I feel like we needed, I don't know, bring in that, make sure that human element is present to help sell, like, that really weird, really unique Ducktin Apple brand of humor. So I would give this a 7 out of 10. I think I enjoyed it, but I guess it's kind of like, maybe this could be like the opposite of the Star Wars problem, where the Star Wars trilogy, The Empire Strikes Back, is obviously the best movie in the Star Wars trilogy. Maybe this will be a thing where the Bigfoot Bill trilogy, the second will be like the weaker of the three, but if you really nail the ending, it'll be a solid conclusion to the trilogy. It's not going to have the Star Wars problem, like the Star Wars. The sequel trilogy, right? I even forgot what their names are. The Force Awakens. So, like, the problem with the Force Awakens trilogy is the Force Awakens is derivative. The Last Jedi is obnoxiously intellectual, and I haven't even bothered. I haven't bothered to see The Rise of Skywalker, because why would I see the third movie in a trilogy where I didn't like book 1 and book 2? So far for Bigfoot Bill, book 1. Solid 9 out of 10. Book 2, 7 out of 10. Let's see what he does with book 3. And if you nail the end of a trilogy, that makes the whole trilogy really work in my book. And Earthworm Jim, I am like so stoked for Earthworm Jim. Dude, I cannot wait. All right, so I hope you enjoyed my brutally honest critique. I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. I love you guys. Catch you later.